Today's guest can be rather fruity with his language, so trigger warning. If you're listening with kids, you might want to put headphones on. But today we're joined by a social media celebrity, somebody that I've had the pleasure of doing quite a number of hours on the trail, but we'll find out about that later. Mr. Windy Wilson.
Welcome. All right, guys, how's it going?
Hi, Windy.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Nick. Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Brilliant. So we'll get off to a flyer. We know who you are, but some of the listeners might not. Who is Windy Wilson?
Well, first of all, he's an alter ego. You know, he doesn't really exist. It's just me. But no, he is self-proclaimed Scotland's greatest ever amateur weatherman. Amateur because I don't get paid. So it's just a bit of fun. It's something I've been doing since 2009. So where are we? We're almost 15 years away. It's just a bit of fun. It kind of snowballed, pardon the pun, from a few hundred followers. Then we had some bad snow, 2009, 2010. Then it kind of grew again. I said to the wife, I said, Gusty, you know what? If we get any more bad snow, if this kind of takes off, I'm going to set up a separate page. I live just off the A9 between Perth and Stirling, Auchterarder, Blackford, Braco, Green Lonan. It's quite a notorious stretch when we get bad weather, especially between the roundabouts at Perth and Dunblane. So yeah, we did have some bad weather 2010, 2012. So like I say, I set it up and it's just kind of snowballed from there, really.
And have you always had an interest in the weather before setting the page up?
Not really, no. It kind of initially came about because I used to play a lot of golf. Keen golfer. I used to play 3-4 times a week. We'll maybe touch on that later on when I started running, but I've not played golf for years. But I used to be, not responsible, but sometimes I used to book the tee times for us playing golf. When a good mate of mine, Mark McKenzie, he gave me a couple of weather apps, rain radar apps, just to have a wee look at. We used to play a medal on a Wednesday, and then there was summer league in that. So yeah, it let you know what to expect over the next 4, 5, 6 hours, and a round of golf is usually 4 or 5 hours. So I always used to kind of check that. And I don't know where it came from exactly, but I'd maybe put a few posts up on my own personal page just to say that it was going to be a nice day, a windy day, a good drying day. And without being stereotypical, I suppose, a few female friends would maybe message me and say, oh, what's the weather going to be like today? Am I going to get the washing out? Not that men don't do the washing as well, but you know what I mean. And I think that's where the windy came from, the Windy Wilson. Just it being a good drying day, because that's what a lot of people in Scotland look for, really. As long as it's dry, sunny, but you need the wind to dry your clothes when they're outside in the line. So I think that's where the Windy Wilson came from, and that goes back to 2009.
Brilliant. Thanks for answering, Mike.
And leading on from your weather, you do a lot of charity work. Do you want to say how you got into that?
Right, well, obviously as we went through the years and my number of followers increased, I'll be brutally honest with you, I did initially think I could monetize it for myself. I didn't know how exactly. I was thinking about brand. You know, I've got hoodies and t-shirts and stuff that I sell, but initially I thought I could monetize it, money for myself, but nothing came of it really. So I said to the wife one day, I said, you know what, let's just do stuff for charity. So the exact same stuff that I was doing the day before, like for personal gain, the day after, as soon as I mentioned charity and everything we were doing for charity, people started buying stuff, and it kind of just took off from there. So I used the platform, all my social media platforms, because of my following, because I've got a massive audience. So I basically use that for charity work. So everything I do really, do for charity, and we've been fundraising for about 10 years now, all in.
You got any particular charities you want to shout out?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few big ones I've worked with over the years. We'll start with maybe some of them first, and then we can finish off with the one I'm working with just now. I'm diabetic, so Diabetes UK is a big one for me, an important one for me. I got to run my first London Marathon in 2019 through Diabetes UK. I've ran it twice for them. So there's diabetes, there's been SAMH, so mental health, RNLI, prostate cancer. I got into Berlin through prostate cancer, and obviously most people are aware of Sir Chris Hoy's situation with that, so that was a good one. CHAS, Children's Hospices across Scotland, and in particular Rachel House in Kinross. I've been across there a few times. Ronald McDonald House down in Glasgow. I'm scared in case I forget anybody. British Heart Foundation. So yeah, these are some of the bigger ones. The Scottish Charity and Ambulance. But just recently, or the last 2-3 years, my main charity has been Cardiac Risk in the Young, so CRY. And my wife organises heart screening every year. Our son watch sometimes because I get triggered when I talk about it, but he had open heart surgery when he was 14. Congenital heart defect. He had a large hole in his heart. So he underwent surgery December 2020. And just after that, I wasn't aware of CRY at the time. So that's how we did some fundraising for British Heart Foundation Scotland. We raised about 20,000 for them. They do a lot of the research, the CPR, the defibs and stuff like that. And then later on, we kind of discovered that CRY do more of the heart screening. So we screen young adults, 14 to 35-year-olds. We do about 200 every weekend. We have that once a year. So yeah, we hope to try and pick up any undiagnosed heart conditions so they can then go on and get treated, rather than them not knowing and they maybe go out one day or maybe away to play football or whatever, you know, and they drop down dead with a heart condition. So there's been a few wee charities in between, but my main charity now, and the one that I'm do most of my work for over the last 3-4 years is Cardiac Risk in the Young.
It was about 3 or 4 years ago that me and you, well, you were running the Great Glen and I was sweeping it, and it was through the heart charities that we got talking. I had open heart surgery in the start of 2020, so about the same time as your son. I think, I had the start of the year, he had the end of the year.
Yeah, so. He was December 21st. Obviously, being into the weather and that was that particular day. It was the longest day, and it literally quite was the longest day. I was down in Glasgow. I remember I'm going into surgery, Royal Hospital for Children, and there's a park about half a mile down the road. So I spent about 5 or 6 hours just walking round and round in that, waiting to get a text message. There was a WhatsApp group had been set up, me, my wife, and anaesthetist. So we would get not loads of updates, but basically we went down to surgery with him, waited until he fell asleep, then he got taken through into the theatre. So we got 3 or 4 updates just to say that, you know, that was him asleep. That's kind of opened up. He's on the heart pump. That's the surgeon starting to work on the heart. That's everything been done. He's still on the machine. That's him closed up. Blah blah blah. Everything's went okay. That's him back up in the ward, and then, you know, come up and see him at like 2 o'clock type thing. But waiting for these text messages coming in was it was mental. And like Mike said, that's the first time I met Mike. I was doing the Great Glen Ultra. He was sweeping. I met 3 guys that day who I'm running buddies with. It was Mike, obviously. Then there was Terry Addison, is it?
Yeah.
And Christian Delacour. So I'm still friends with these guys just now. I see all 3 of them really, depending on what ultras we're doing. But the last time I saw Christian was just up at Glenmore there in September. I'm not too sure if Terry was there. I usually see Terry at Bill's events, Rocket events. I think Terry was at Glen Lyon earlier this year. That was 1st of June. But yeah, that's when I first met Mike. He was sweeping. Spent a lot of time together. Probably the last, I don't know, 8-10 hours of the race. It was quite kind of ironic as well, because I think at the time, and you might still be, Mike was the current record holder for the Great Glen. I think it was around about 11 hours, and it took me about 20 hours, and I just couldn't. That was one of my earlier ultras, and I just couldn't kind of compute how this guy here could almost run round twice, to me running, and here he was at the back of the pack with Terry and Christian sweeping for me. So that was the first time I met Mike, and then I've obviously seen him at quite a lot of Bill's events, and I followed him, and I've ran with him a couple of times as well, up at the backyard at the Highlander, and obviously I've followed him this year as well when he was doing his backyard stuff for Team Britain and that. So yeah, and then obviously Mike had open heart surgery as well. Just not this year, but year before. Just quickly, we were up at Blair Athol setting up the tent on the Friday, and I don't know if you know many people who have had open heart surgery, but it was July, hot day, so they've got the t-shirts off. So Mike's walking about with a zip, and young Windy was up helping me put up the tent and that. So I'm like, that's when he first met Mike, I think. But he'd known Mike, he knew of him, because I'd spoken about him. So young Windy whips his t-shirt off as well, so he's got the scars. So the 2 of them are walking about the field at Blair Athol with their t-shirts off, proud as punch with their scars, with their heart surgery scars. So stuff like that kind of sticks in my mind,
And quite rightly so.
Yeah.
And with that, you've just answered my next question. How is wee Windy now? Is he good?
I know he's good. He's 100% fit. He's been signed off everything. No medication, no nothing. He's training to be a commercial pilot, or he was. He's not been flying for a wee while. He's got a full-time job now, so that kind of gets in the way. But he's got his Class 2 medical for flying. So yeah, he's fully fit. Tall, he's maybe about 6'1", 6'2". Still needs to maybe bulk up a wee bit, because one of the kind of not side effects, but due to his condition, he wasn't getting any nutrients out of his blood, so muscle mass is missing, and bone density. Just before he got his surgery, he's had broken leg, dislocated knees, dislocated shoulder, so he's quite brittle. So that was a byproduct of the heart condition, and obviously, as I said, he wasn't getting any nutrients out of his blood. So yeah, muscle mass, but he's bulking up now. He likes his food, so hopefully in the next few years he'll be back to normal, and you wouldn't even know anything was wrong.
You've covered an awful lot of charities in that question there. The running, how did that come about? Was it the charity work first and then the running, or did you run and then decide to run for charity? What happened?
Well, the charity work, like you said, I said to you, I used to be a keen golfer, and then it was around about the same time as we set up Windy's page. So we're just looking to fundraise. I think back then, one of my main charities then was the diabetes, CHAS, and RNLI. Used to choose a different charity every year. I think I had 3 golf days, so it would have been diabetes, CHAS, and the RNLI. So yeah, to be honest with you, they were quite a lot of work, to set up. to take over the golf course. It's much the same as setting up a race, I suppose. You have to have all your everything in place, toilets and stuff, and just like that. So we had the 2 or 3 golf days. Then kind of went off it a few years, and then I fell out of love with golf, started running. So the charity stuff had kind of been done previously, but kind of maybe put in the back shelf just for a wee while. So when I started running again, that's when I started running for charity again, just using not using per se, but because the amount of followers I've got, it was an ideal situation. I'm doing the weather, I do that free of charge. It's something I enjoy, but in return, I thought to myself, we can continue the charity work and get donations in. So we did a wee bit of charity, we did the golf, then we stopped, and then we started up again when I started running.
You ever thought about mixing the 2 hobbies and doing speed golf?
No, definitely not. I'm bad enough doing normal golf, but yeah, I do see some of the charity stuff. I think it's the longest day as well, usually around about June the 21st. I think there's a lot of charities they try and get out and play 4, 5, 6 games of golf on that day to raise money. But I enjoy the golf now. I just play holiday golf. I'm out a couple of times a year, but no, I was never a great golfer, so that's probably not, Mike. No, I'm not a great runner either, but we'll stick to the running. I think running and golf would be a terrible combination.
It gives you an excuse for not being good at either. Not that I'm saying that you're not good.
No.
Going back to how you started out, what was your first running race?
Right, okay, well, my first running race was the Perth 10K. That was August 2018. But prior to that, inspiration for the running was my wife, Gusty. She ran the London Marathon in 2018, the hottest ever London Marathon in 2018. That was the year they ran out of water. So she wanted to get that done. She ran for Make a Wish. Was it Make a Wish Foundation or something? Yeah. She's also a scout leader. I think at that time she was looking after the beavers. Just now she looks after the squirrels. So there must have been something happening in class at the scouts. So it was kind of the dream, believe, achieve kind of situation, so you just wanted to let our beavers know that, no matter who you were or what you were, if you decided to do something, put your mind to it, you could get it done. So she ran London Marathon in 2018. A few funny stories with that as well. I wasn't a runner then. And I didn't know at the time, marathon plans were like 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 16 weeks or whatever. So I remember her going out one weekend and I was like, what are you up to? Oh, that's the marathon block starting. I'm away for a run, eh? So she's out 15, 20 minutes. Back she comes, blown out her arse, eh? I'm like, what are you doing? I said, I thought you were training for London. She's like, aye, it's a block, it's 16 weeks, you take it easy. I'm like, take it easy, fuck all. I says, I'll go out tomorrow. I'm going to run 10 miles. I'll show you how it's done. She's like, right, on you go. So anyway, on the Sunday, I get all the gear on, like, I goes away out. And I live in Auchterarder, so people that have been to the running festival and that'll know. But there's loads of wee loops round about me. There's a couple that are only like 2 miles long. I think I only got out to the mini roundabout and then headed back. I was back in 5 minutes, absolutely dying. And I was like, maybe you're right. Maybe we need to build it up. So me and young Wendy, we were down in London supporting her when she ran the marathon in April. And it was absolutely amazing. I've watched it on the telly loads of time. London's quite good because it doesn't just really focus on the elites. It does, other runners as well, charity runners, and you can see a bit of the crowd. But until you're actually down there and in amongst it, it's mental. It's like 50, 100 deep. There's parties, there's just music, the atmosphere, just the crowd, the buzz, just everything. So the wife got that completed. And once we got back up the road, like you say, it was absolutely amazing. I'm like, right, I'm going to London Marathon as well. And I didn't think I would get in, but at that time I'd been doing some bits and bobs for Diabetes Scotland. So I said, right, I'll have a word with my fundraising wifey and see if she can get me a place, thinking, get me a place because it's like prestigious and it'll be sold out. So anyway, I spoke to her, and then a couple of weeks later, I got a place for London, So I'm like, oh, fuck, I better start training. So yeah, I got in 2019. So I've got the medals hanging up in the living room, Mr. and Mrs. She done it in 2018. I did it in 2019. Every time we talk about it, she'll mention it was the hottest ever London Marathon. But I'll say I've got the gold medal. She's got the silver medal. Now, I don't know if you guys know that the London Marathon, they change the design every 3 years. So it's just the colour it changes. So if you run it 1 year and it's bronze, you'll run it the next year, same medal, but it'll be silver. Then if you run it the next year, it's the same medal and then it's gold. And then they change the design. So she's got the silver medal, but I've got the gold medal. So every time she mentions how hot it was, I'll say, but go and look at the medals. I've got the gold medal. But no, that's I've got these hanging up underneath my 5 majors. But these 2 medals together, obviously, the Mr. and Mrs. The London Marathon 2018, 2019. So these 2 are quite special as well. But my first race, sorry about that, Mike, was August 2018. It's Perth 10K, and I was working at the time, Tapley, company through in Perth. So I think some of the guys had signed up for it, and they were just kind of going round the factory in the office just to say, oh, look, who wants to sign up for the Perth 10K? We'll go down, team Tapley. So there was about 6 or 7 of us from Tapley ran it that day. That was my first ever official race. And I managed to get a sub 60. So I think I was 59 and a wee bitty. And you've got your medal and just like the buzz as well. So, that's the kind of journey started then. So that was my first ever race, the Perth 10K. And I go back and do that.
Sorry, but then you went put off? You went put off at all?
No, not at all, no. Obviously, back then, 10K, quite a big deal if you're not a runner. But no, like you say, it's the buzz, the adrenaline and everything, just the whole day. Then afterwards, getting the medal, being on a runner's high for a few days. Your treats, your run rewards. There's no many for a 10K, but you treat yourself to a few beers and a takeaway or something. So no, got the bug, and that was kind of the start of the journey, I suppose.
And as you say, when you're not a runner, or when you don't class yourself as a runner, 10K is a huge distance. That was my first race back in 2015. But the thing is, I ended up parking it for a few years, which is why I asked, did it not put you off at all? But clearly not when you ran London in 2019. But you mentioned Auchterarder, and I have ran the Chile recently and the Running Festival, and it is a beautiful area and a good mix of terrain. What do you prefer to run on? Do you prefer roads or trails?
I prefer the trails, although a lot of the running I do is on roads, but I like the trails. I've only been running for 6 years, 6.5 now, I suppose. So I've done 13 ultras, 7 marathons, 12 halves. So still mostly road, but I do prefer the trails. Sometimes when I'm out, my Strava stories or my posts, there's a meme I use quite a lot, and it's like out to the hills or out to the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. So it's just like Michael knows as well, you'll maybe know as well, just when, if you've got a nice day, summer or winter, put your vest on, a couple of bottles of whatever, some fuel, and then you just head up into the hills. You could be away for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, just lost in your own wee world up there. So yeah, I do prefer the trails. I don't mind running on the road, racing on the road, but if I had a choice, it would be the trails. Yeah, definitely.
You've done, you said 12 ultras and I'm not sure how many you said marathons.
Which
races? 30 marathons. Which races stand out for you?
It's hard to pick a favourite, because obviously there's quite a few of them have sentimental value. They were special. Like London was my first ever marathon major, so you know I've run that twice. I'm running it again in April next year. So London has a special place in my heart. My first ever race, obviously the Perth 10K. The ones I've done in Auchterarder. Some of my ultras, the Great Glen, you know, the big one, the Backyards, the Highlander, the Glen. They've all kind of got special things, but I think London has a special place in my heart just because it was my first major, first marathon. But, you know, to be honest with you, most races, you know, just getting to the start line, whether it is just a 10K, a 50K or a 100 miler or whatever, you know, doing the training, being fit and getting to the start line and just being grateful, getting it done injury free and getting your medal. But there's one or two that are, well, they're all kind of special, but there's one or two that are maybe a wee bit more special than others.
How many marathon majors have you done?
Marathon majors, I've done 5. I've done 7 marathons altogether. It was 13 ultras, so I've done 5 of the majors. I've ran London twice. As I said, I've got a guaranteed place for London next year, April 2025 for Cry. But since we spoke just a couple of weeks ago, I got an email from Abbott. It's another draw, so it's a 5-star draw. I think it might be 4 stars as well. So if you had 4 stars or 5 stars, there was an additional ballot. So I've got 5 stars, so I thought to myself, well, you might as well reply and enter the draw. So I think we find out next week sometime, 26th of November. I'm hoping, obviously, people that have got 4 stars are just kind of as entitled as me to go into the draw with 5 stars, but I'm hoping Abbott maybe look at the people who have maybe got the 5 stars. Yes, come on, let's try and get these guys into the draw to get their 6 stars, because I'm sure it's more publicity for Abbott and that if somebody goes to Boston and gets their 6 stars. But yeah, fingers crossed. That's me just trying to convince myself. So yeah, I've done 5 of the majors so far, London twice, and I'm in a 5-star draw for Boston just now, and I think I should find out next week sometime. And if I do get in, I'll need to go back and speak to Cry and see if I can get London deferred, because I think if you are a marathon runner and if you have any of the majors, I'm sitting on 5. I'm just waiting on 1 to get the original 6-star. If I get the chance to run Boston, I've got to go and get it done. Absolutely. So yeah, so fingers crossed for that, guys. We'll see how we go on.
Sorry, Mike, when you go.
Before Nikki asks her question, important question about London.
Yeah.
Were you faster than your wife?
You're a brave man, Mike.
A gentleman never kisses and tells, eh? If I go around the corner and look at the wall, the 2 medals are hanging up there together, eh? So we've both got the same medal, eh? It was a hot year. It was a hot year that year, and they did run out of water. And I'll tell you just again a wee story about the water. I hadn't really, being young when they were going down, so we had the course map and we'd be like, right, we'll see you here, we'll see you there, we'll get you here, we'll get you there. So I had like 8 or 9 wee kind of viewpoints where we would see her. I think we only saw her 3 places. That's just how busy it was. Totally underestimated the crowds, the underground, the DLR, and moving about. So me and young Windy saw her about mile 8. Then he was getting sore legs. He was only like about 12 at the time. So I took him back to the hotel. He was just on his computer and that. He had his phone and that. So everything was okay. Hotel room was locked up. Then I went out. I think I caught my wife round about Canary Wharf or something. Mile 16, mile 17. I had a couple of bottles of water with me. I was on the app and it said that she was still a couple of miles away. and I just got off the train, went downstairs, and the app refreshed, and she was right in front of me. You know, if I'd been another minute, 2 minutes later, I would have missed her, and she wouldn't have had any water. But no, she managed to get it completed. I've completed it, and we've each got the medal. So no kissing and telling, Mikey boy. No kissing and
telling. We know what that means.
Happy wife, happy life.
Aye, for sure.
So 5 majors, that is huge. Congratulations on even just getting the 5. Congratulations on even just getting 1, because that is huge. But the crowds, obviously, they're not majors, you know, for being quiet. So I've got 2 questions. One is, how do you cope with the crowds? You come across as though you sound so you come across pretty well with the crowds. But my second one off of this, as well as, which one was the busiest, did you find?
Right, okay. The crowds, obviously, it's crazy. My wife actually is kind of claustrophobic, so she might have struggled in a few of them. Probably New York. Runners, New York, I think, had about 55,000 runners, and the biggest crowds, 2 million. So for noise and craziness, New York was off the scale. It was overwhelming at some points, like literally bonkers. Again, without being stereotypical, you know what the Americans are like when they're putting on a show, putting on an event. You know, it's just totally bonkers. So you get the ferry across to Staten Island, then you run over the bridge. So it's a wee bit quieter on the bridge the first couple of miles. But from there on in, every single inch of the course, hooters, bells, screaming, noise, 55,000 runners. It's just, New York was like, you know, when I finished, not only was I like knackered, but I was like mentally broken down. Just my head was pounding, my ears. But amazing. It was great. It was a great experience. You know, just the screaming and that, just everything that keeps you going. So that was New York for like the craziest. And then I ran Tokyo as well, so that's just a complete flip. You know, the Japanese are probably a little bit more modest, shall we say, quieter. But there was a fair bit of noise. I think there was about 30,000 runners, maybe about 300,000 out watching it. They're just starting to get into the kind of, you know, the noise and the cheerleaders and stuff like that. So I didn't really know what to expect with Tokyo. I knew it was going to be smaller. I knew it was going to be quieter. But, you know, there was still a lot of people out. There was a lot of, maybe the younger generation. Some of the older ones were maybe just a little crap. But the younger ones, obviously now, you know, they had up the boards and the bells and the shouting. So that was the 2 flips. But I think the friendliest major, like for overall just atmosphere and just everything, Chicago. Chicago was amazing, absolutely amazing. Just like the whole city kind of embraced it. Just everywhere you went, the shops, the hotels, even the people walking about. It's maybe, I don't know population size, but New York's absolutely massive. So when you're out on Meadow Monday, you know, there's a lot of people in New York would kind of look at you and think, you know, what's that? What are you up to? There's a lot of people didn't know like the marathon was on. Same with Tokyo being that big, it's just ran through certain districts. So there's a lot of people in Tokyo didn't know the marathon was on. But Chicago just seemed to be everywhere you went. That's all they were speaking about that weekend, the marathon. So New York for crazy noise and just pure bonkers. Tokyo, a little bit more subdued, but still nice, pleasant in its own way. But overall, friendliest, I think, for me, Chicago.
Well, that 2 million people is a bit different than what you get at the Great Glen or Blair Atholl or the Highlander.
Absolutely. Yeah, but, you know, wherever you're running, like you say, whether it's a local 10K, a half marathon or whatever, or one of the majors, or even a big city marathon, even if anybody comes out, even when we do the Auckland Running Festival, when you're running around there, it's a 10K and a half marathon, and you're maybe struggling. You maybe see some mums and dads out. There's people out. There's young kids out. With plates of sweets and jelly babies and stuff. So whether there's 2 or 3 of them, or 200,000 or 300,000, you still get that wee kind of buzz, and they always get a clap and a thank you and a well done, because they've taken their time to come out and cheer you on. They've written some boards. The children have got sweets. They've usually got the boards, push for power. Like you say, whether there's only 2 or 3 of them standing there, or 200,000 or 300,000, everybody gets a clap and a thank you as well for making the effort.
So you said about which sort of marathon you like them all, but do you have a race distance that you prefer to
run? Probably the trails, the ultra trails, maybe a 50K. I think it's no too long, no too short, and I kind of class myself as an ultra runner. Although I do the marathon, I'm not quite there yet. I think there's a few people that will maybe just stick to the trails, and they maybe just do 50Ks, 50 milers, 100 milers, and they're never on road, and vice versa. I'm quite fortunate that I'm able to jump between the 2 disciplines. But yeah, I think the 50K for me, like you say, 31, 32 miles, is relatively speaking, it's not too long. Depending on where I'm running, I can usually get them done 6.5, 7 hours, maybe 8 hours max. So it's a good day out. It's a good challenge. So I would probably say the 50K is my favourite if I had to pick one.
Yeah, you're saying 6 or 7 hours, but I know that you've got a desire to stay for 24 hours in a backyard because you want to do the 100 miles.
Aye, absolutely. So that's one of my running goals. Although I've only been running for 6 years, I believe my goals are realistic. I've heard you speaking before, Mike, and I'm sure I heard Karen Nichol as well when we were at the workshop and that, to set goals that are realistic but challenging. There's no point having easy goals because you'll do them. So yeah, most of the long distances are kind of based on the 100 miles in the 24 hours. So I'm thinking I've put myself in amongst that lot. Maybe a bit ambitious. I maybe should have went for the 100 miles in 30 hours, but we'll wait and see. But I enjoy the backyard format, but I probably prefer the 24-hour format, the Glenmore. I'm okay with the distance. What I've done so far, I think the Great Glen, Mike, is that 72?
Yeah, it depends on the course.
So I did that one in 20 hours. My 24-hour PB is 78.15. So I'm there or thereabouts. There's still a lot of work to get done, but the backyard, that's a brutal format for me. The distance is there, but it's the distance and the time.
Yeah.
Getting the yard done within the 60 minutes. Because running the 4.167 miles on paper, a 12-minute mile gets you around in like under 50 minutes. So on paper you're like, hey bother, I can do that. But obviously, the longer you run, the more tired you get, and even if you lose a minute or a couple of minutes, that's a big deal. And then you're out maybe yard 4, yard 5, yard 6. I'm just speaking about us mere mortals here, Mike. I know you guys have done some crazy numbers, but you're chasing your tail, and then you're getting more tired, and you just kind of know your backyard is coming to an end in the next couple of yards, So it's crazy, but yeah, my ambition before I get too old is to try and get the 100 miles done in 24 hours.
And the 78 miles, the furthest distance you've ever ran, like in or out of an event.
Yeah, that's my PB, regardless if it was 20. That's the longest I've ever went in and 1 goal, 78.15. So that was last year at Glenmore. This year I was only about a mile behind it. We had a kind of different strategy, trying some different things with the fuel, but I had a really, really tough year this year. I had a lot of big events, and I don't think I was fully recovered, even going into the Highlander in July, and then even when we went to Glenmore in September. So next year I've only got one big event, and then I'm saving myself for Glenmore because I want to go into Glenmore with fresh legs, because I really hammered my body earlier this year, and I don't even think I'm fully recovered just now, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki hasn't admitted it to herself yet, but she'll be signing up to Backyard soon enough. So maybe you'll both get to the 100 together.
Aye, maybe, you never know. So I'm going to next year. I'm going to give Highlander a miss this time. I'll probably be up for the weekend cheering people on, but at the moment, fingers crossed to get into Boston. But at the moment, I'm running London in April, and then that's me. There's nothing. 4 months. I'm just going to dedicate to Glenmore 24 and just focus on that, because I think this year I had six massive events, 4. Then I went into the Highlander, that was 5, and then I went into Glenmore, and that was 6. And I was done in, to be honest with you. I need to remember I'm 58 and no 28, and I can't recover as quickly as some of the young guys can.
I think you find that as well, though, when you do start coming into running. I mean, you say, Wendy, you've only been running for 6 years. I mean, I've only been running 3 years, and this year was my first year in ultras, and it is easy to get carried away. So it is a really good idea to pick one event that you want to do really, really well in, and just try and not enter everything, because hopefully they will be there in the future still.
I'm kind of like that, and I don't know if it's a trait of some sort. Like you say, I've only been running 6 years, and it takes some people years, to get up and that. So I quickly went up through the distances. Like I did the 10K in August, then I did my half marathon in the September, then I ran London in the April. So that was only like after being running for 6 or 7 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then after London in April, I went and booked into the Run the Blades, the 50K. So that was my first ultra. So I think that was only like a couple of months after London. It's just because you're chasing the buzz, the adrenaline, and you're like, you just need to keep going. So I'm actually scared sometimes, because if I do get the 100, or if I get something big, it's going to be, what next? No disrespect to any distance. I respect every distance. I'm busy training for a 10K just now. Maybe we can talk about that later on. But my 10K training just now, compared to some of my ultra training, my 10K training has been brutal. All that speed work. I'd rather go out and do a 25-mile ultra training run where I can just plod along, walk the hills, drink my juice, eat my sandwiches. When I'm doing 10K speed work, it's absolutely savage. So, regardless of what distance of that, always chasing the high, and then just wondering, where we go after that. But this year, I kind of thought my main goal was getting a PB at Manchester, and then doing well at Glenmore. And these events just kind of happened to align with my plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, if I'm doing big miles, I might as well run an event. But I didn't really understand how much running an event takes out of you compared to just running the same distance but a training run. Don't know if that makes sense, but if you've maybe got 25 miles to do, I'll just do a marathon instead. It's only an extra mile, but just the adrenaline, the build up and what have you, and then once you finish, you kind of crash. Whereas if you were just doing a training run, you would do that on the Saturday, then you'd be back out at Run Club on the Tuesday, you're able to go. So that's something I learned this year from having all these events close together. running an event is completely different to just doing a training run, although it could be the same distance and the same time apart. Just doing an event just takes so much more out of you, like physically and mentally. So that's something I've learned from this year. We're having all my events together.
That's really good advice for me as well. So thank you, and probably for a lot of the listeners. It's not just the marathon majors as well that you've mentioned throughout the conversation that you've done. You've done quite a lot of the well-known ultra events as well. Yeah. Do you ever get nervous before any of them?
I get nervous before any race. I don't know if it's like nerves per se, but you know, obviously the race morning, you know, you're up, you have your breakfast, your porridge, your banana, you're getting all your stuff ready. So I don't know if it's like nerves, but it's more anticipation and just what's to come, the butterflies, and then you can kind of try and any nerves you've got, kind of try and channel it into positive energy, and you know, just keep reminding yourself what you're doing, why you're doing it, you know, who you're doing it for. So yeah, always nervous just in case it doesn't go to plan. You maybe get injured. Again, we're doing a lot of fundraising, you know. I'm always worried might let people down, let the charity down. So there's stuff like that. But at the same time, I kind of like having a wee bit of pressure on me as well, because it just kind of keeps you on your toes, stops you getting complacent, I think, you know, for me, like.
And part of this nervous, you obviously got people to back you up. It probably applies more for ultras rather than marathons, but do you take a crew with you?
Yeah, not on the road races. Like if it's a 10K, a half. I'm doing Inverness half marathon again in March, so likes of that, I'll just go up to that myself. My wife and my son have been at a few marathons with me, and some of the bigger races. But he's older now and working. My wife's a teacher, so unfortunately she can only get off during the holidays, not term time. But I've learned for some of the bigger ultras, I've learned to use the drop bags. But she does crew for me when we do the longer endurance events, the backyard and Glenmore. She prefers these ones actually because we just pitch up the gazebo. She's in the one place with the dogs, and it's me. It's kind of going out running. That time we ran the Great Glen, Mike. I had two crew there with me, my wife and one of my good running buddies from Tapley, a guy from Perth called Robbie Lyle. There's a lot more pressure on your crew during that one, a point to point, because they have to pack up, move on to the next checkpoint, make sure they're there just in time for you coming in, having all your stuff ready. And that's the same day they had the horrendous rain and the flooding at Drumnad Rocket. I think it was about mile 54. It was flooded out. They had to move the checkpoint and stuff like that, and like at the last minute. So stuff like that kind of doesn't freak her out, but she's scared in case she's not there for me and lets me down. But yeah, we both certainly prefer the ones where you kind of rock up, pitch up the gazebo. She's there for the weekend. She's got her book. She's got her work. She looks after the dogs, and it's me. It's out running, so she just makes sure everything's there for me coming in. So I think both of us prefer these ones.
And how do you fuel for all the different distances and races, what have you?
Right, still kind of working on that, even to this day. I mentioned to you before I'm diabetic, so I'm actually speaking to a couple of people just now to see if I can get a metabolic efficiency test, just to see how my body reacts to taking in fuel. I've kind of convinced myself that my body isn't efficiently converting fuel into usable energy, rather than I'm just a slow runner and I maybe need to train a bit harder. So, but no, we've been diabetic. So I see on some of the chats and the forums and that, you know, when people are coming to the last stages of a race, they'll maybe take a gel or something, and they get a wee boost, you know, and that kind of drives them on for the last 10 miles, 15 miles. I never really get that kick. And I've often wondered if the fuel I'm taking, like I said, is getting efficiently converted into usable energy, going into my muscles as glycogen, so I can use it as energy. I test my bloods every now and again, so you can usually tell if you've got high blood sugars. So that's the fuel that you're consuming isn't going into your muscles to be used as energy. It's staying in your blood and it's spiking your sugars. So I'm hoping to get that sorted. But if I'm doing road races, I'll usually want fuel for a 10K. If I'm doing a half, I'll maybe just use the water station and carry a gel. The marathons, I'll use gels. The ultras, a kind of mixture, solid food, the gels, and I quite like the Precision Hydration. They've got the chews, little pack of chews. I think Active Root, there's a few other companies do them as well. And I've started using Supernatural Fuel, their pouches, squeezy pouches. It's a bit like the baby food, but for ultra runners, just easier to digest. So I've been working on that, but depending on the distance, it's a mixture. But gels for the shorter road races, then the ultras, it'll be a mixture, but there's solid food in there as well as the gels. And when you get to a certain stage, you'll know yourself, you get flavour fatigue. Sometimes you just can't stomach anything. So sometimes I'll mix up Tailwind or that. So at least you're getting some kind of carbohydrate, you know, liquid or whatever. So it's a combination depending on the distance, really.
And what gel brand do you use?
At the moment, I have been using Torque Fitness. I like the flavours. Some people are not keen on them; they're a bit sickly. I use Precision Engineering, Precision Hydration. Sorry, their gels. Little small one, 30 grams. Being diabetic as well, I need to keep an eye on the ingredients. There's not a lot of gels. There is a few. One of the ingredients I try and stay away from as much as I can is maltodextrin. So I try and use some of the natural ones, and the drinks as well, Active Root and Tailwind.
Yeah, I know some diabetics that wear the continuous glucose monitor on their arm.
Yeah.
Have you looked into that?
No, yes and no. There's quite a good one just now, the Dexcom. I think it's a Dexcom. I think it might be a 6. They're quite expensive though, so I need to be able to justify the cost of it. But it will be something I probably will do eventually if I do ever manage to get this metabolic efficiency test done. I think that's on the treadmill with the mask and that, and obviously I'm taking in different fuel sources, and they're able to monitor my bloods, which will tell them which fuel source is giving me the most energy. So if I get that sorted out, then the continuous glucose monitor would be a good one as well. I think for the longer distances, because obviously it's connected to your phone, and I think some of the new ones can be connected to my wife back at the gazebo, so she's able to keep an eye on my bloods as well. Because obviously when your bloods go low, you know, you start to get tired and fatigued. So I might not know, you know, if you're 50, 60 miles into a run, and when we do the ultras, we've got everything kind of written down. She keeps a note of everything that's eaten. Because if you've been running for 12, 14, 15 hours, you start to get a bit doolally, and she's like, did you take that last bottle? Did you drink it? Did you eat this? Did you eat that? You lose track of what you're taking in. So having the monitor would be good as well, you know, to let you know what your bloods are dropping. So you need something just to pick them back up. So I have kind of looked at it briefly, but it will be something I'll probably do in the next couple of years, I think, if I want to try and get that 100 miles.
Once you've got all your nutrition sorted out and you're running, what about injuries?
Injuries, right?
You say that you've done a lot of races in a short period of time. Have you had injuries to do that, or?
No, not really. I've really only had one major injury. It's when I kind of first started. Post-tib, they call it, posterior tibialis or something. Aye, post-tib, yeah. So I think that's really when I first started running, and I was really just maybe going from 2 runs a week, maybe up to 3 runs or up to 4 runs. Then obviously the distance was increasing as well. So I think obviously just with putting the extra load on it, I had that, and that's around about the same time I found out that I used to overpronate, and I needed orthotics. So there's a good podiatrist in the town in Auchterarder. So I went to see him. We got that kind of established. I was out for probably about 6 weeks maybe, but that was a good few years ago. So I wear orthotics now, and also I run in support shoes, usually Brooks, the GTS. But I think I need to go and get my feet done again. I'm going to get my gait done again, because I think just over the last 3-4 years, combination of doing big miles, maybe cross training, getting stronger, I think my gait has maybe changed a little bit. But that's really the only major issue, apart from the odd kind of aches and pains and niggles, maybe tight hamstrings, tight glutes, calves. But most people get that. So I'm quite fortunate, actually.
You mentioned there about cross training. Aside from the running and the golf, what kind of cross training do you do?
Yeah, well, I usually go to I could do more. I could be better, I suppose. I've one-to-one coaching with Fiona from 5 Star. So she's obviously a coach at the club, but we've been doing one-to-one for a couple of years now. We use Training Peaks, so we use the app Training Peaks. So all my structured stuff gets done through that. So usually I've got run club on a Tuesday, Thursday, run club on a Saturday, a long run on a Saturday, then maybe a recovery run on a Sunday. But I usually go to the gym on a Monday and a Wednesday. So just depending where we are, maybe the Monday will be upper body and the Wednesday will be legs and core, or just whatever. So yeah, I do go to the gym twice a week. I could probably do a bit more, work a bit harder. During the summer, I'll go out on my bike. But I've only really just started going to the gym since I started working with Fiona. Before that, I didn't do any cross training at all. It was just kind of running, stretching, again, not very well, just the usual, lean against the wall, maybe stretch your calf for 20 seconds, put your leg up on a table, stretch your hammy. That was kind of it. And I wasn't really getting anywhere, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So since I've had the one-to-one coaching, the structured training, going to the gym more, and I do spend more time stretching now, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whereas before it was probably just stretching your calves in the shower, and that was the extent of it. But gym twice a week, depending on what's on, definitely almost always once a week, and in the good weather, out on the bike as well.
And it's Fiona Watt of 5
Fiona
Star
Watt
Active.
At 5 Star, yeah. So she does the one-to-one coaching. She works with a few runners, but yeah, depending on the event, like just now I'd said to you, it's not open yet, so I've not got a guaranteed place, but I'm busy training for the Tilly 10K, because I'm looking to get a sub 50. I'm hoping to get in. I've been in the last few years. But yeah, it's just been it's been a tough one, moving from the ultra running, like the first 9 months of this year, to come to the shorter distances to speed work. The first few weeks, I kind of had the mindset, it's only a 10K. It's only a 10K. But as I said, some of the sessions I've been doing for the 10K have felt tougher than some of the stuff, moving from the slow plods to trying to open up your legs, your stride, and get some speed work done in there. So that's what we're working on just now. And I've been with her a couple of years, and I've noticed a big improvement just with the structured training, the diet. the recovery, the cross training, and the stretching, just combination of everything, I think.
You said earlier you didn't know what you'd do once you achieve your 100 miles in 24 hours that you're going to do this year. Is there any...
Next year, hopefully.
Is there any other achievements like your 10K time there that you think that is the biggest thing I've achieved so far?
I've got PBs this year and last year and most of the distances. So every time, I get something like that, personal achievement for me. The marathon, I'm sitting at 4:25. I'm not even going to get a Boston qualifier. For Boston qualifier, I think I need to be about 84, just for the time. So I want to try and get my marathon distance closer to 4 hours if I can. Again, before I was not a serious runner, but like my 10K just now, I'm sitting at 51:05, so it's only just over a minute. Now that doesn't seem a lot of time, and I didn't really used to think about that before I kind of got into the coaching and got into the kind of more serious side of things. If you're running a 10K, it's only 6 miles. If you're flat out, a minute and 6-7 seconds is quite a big deal. You're looking at another 12-13 seconds a mile for 6 miles, flat out as hard as you can go. So it's a big ask. Again, with the marathon, I'm sitting at 4:25. I'm thinking, I wonder if I could get a sub 4. But again, that's 26 minutes I'd need to take off my marathon time. So that's another minute a mile, for 26 miles. That's a big ask. I kind of liken it to when you're on a diet and you're losing weight. So, the first couple of months, you come down really quickly, and then you're just kind of stuck at that kind of plateau, and it does, just to get that little bit further, just takes that little bit more work and effort. So yeah, just always trying to work on everything, and every time I go out, try and I used to do a lot of comparison on Strava, looking at other people and that, but now it's me against me, and that's all I do. If I go and do a race again, just try and do better than what I did in it last year and the year before, and that's all I can ask for, really.
Because comparison, it's apples and oranges. Everyone's so different, and it's all
relative. That'll completely destroy you. Again, you just need to take everything into consideration. You've only been running for so many years. You're older. These guys might have been running for 20, 30 years. They might have been running since school. Different makeup, different physique, just different genetics. So yeah, I used to look at Strava and be like, oh, look at this one. He's running this fast and he's running that fast, and wondering why you could never get there or be there. And like you say, it just kind of eats away at you. So now it's me against me. And because like you say, everybody's different. Everybody's doing it for their own particular reason. And as long as I can do better or try and do better than what I did before, I'm happy with that.
And is that why you do run, to try and get your own potential out?
I suppose, but to try and stay healthy and fit, mentally as well. I'm quite fortunate. I retired young, so I don't think if I never had the running, the weather, I've got 2 dogs, so I'm out quite a lot with them. If I never had that, retired young, and I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd probably be in the pub. You just, you'd be bored shitless during the day. So I've got the running, something I really enjoy. Part of the run club, part of the running community. I like training for events, going to events. So you've got that kind of stuff to keep you going. So yeah, there's the health, the fitness, the mental side of it. Then obviously the kind of social side, the camaraderie, again, the stuff you see on Strava and on the Facebook pages. So just a combination of everything, really, I think.
And when you're out doing a long run or in a race, when you're gabbing away to me 70 miles into your Great Glen, What is it you think about?
I probably couldn't say. I've probably got sections. I'm probably, I think, well, I hope a lot of us are. If we aren't, then there's something obviously wrong with me. But I'm probably a bit of a Walter Mitty character. You know, if you're some of my long training runs, time on feet, you know, I'm up in the hills 6, 7, 8 hours. And then when you come to do your event, 24 hours, you know, you're through the night. Or if you're running a point-to-point ultra, whether it's 6 hours or whatever, 8 or 10, if you're doing the shorter distances, you've not really got much time to think about things. Like if I'm racing a 10K or a half marathon, I'm trying to go for a PB. So I'm probably keeping an eye on my watch. I'm trying to do kind of mental arithmetic about my pace, where I need to be, stuff like that. But when you're up in the hills, you're doing an ultra and you've been up there for 12, 14, 16 hours, just all sorts. So crazy shit goes through your head when you're out there running at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But like I said, bit of a Walter Mitty, so just daydreaming, mad kind of, I don't know, heroic adventures, romantic escapades with a wife, obviously, but just loads of stuff. Just thinking about why you're running, who you're running for, and then, you know, you could go off at a tangent. You know, you might be dreaming that you're running UTMB, or you're doing this or you're doing that. Just all sorts. Sometimes you talk to yourself. I didn't worry too much about that. It's when you start answering yourself back, that's when you've maybe got a problem. But no, just there's loads of stuff. Just crazy thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts. Just keeping an eye on things, your body, your niggles, your fueling. How am I getting on? And then you'll bump into somebody. You'll maybe get a few miles done with them or a few hours done with them. So that's killed a bit of time. So just a great big mixture. I think you have to be a little bit unstable probably to be an ultra runner. It helps, you know, if you can control the head and the mind and the pain, you know, that's a good bit of the battle won already. Like, you know, your head your mind will give up long before your body does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is this crazy club, is that what the Windies Run Club is?
No, a wee bit. Yeah, I don't know why I never thought about that before, because obviously I'm trying to not exploit, you know, in a bad way, but I'm trying to use as much of my following as I can to raise money for charity. So, you know, it's all good. And I've got a few followers on Strava, again, through the weather page, because there's a lot of runners on the weather page. And then just the other day, I was like, why did I never think about this before? So I set up a virtual run club, Windies Run Club. So that's just going to be running and charity stuff. You know, though, it's totally away from Facebook and Twitter and stuff about the weather. So yeah, I set that up, and we've got quite a decent following just now, and it's just really for followers that are on my weather page that maybe just want to do more running things. So we set it up, then I thought about getting some merch in, some buffaroos, because I think buff's a registered trademark, some car stickers, and then I spoke to Mike a few months ago about the medals. So Mike's going to be doing some medals for me when we get into 2025 for the big challenge. But just recently, well, last night, I think, so I've just launched my first virtual. All the events will be virtual. I don't have the time, the money, the patience, or the organisational skills to hold a real life event. It'd be too much, I think. So everything I do will be virtual. It's nice and easy. It's simple. So yeah, we just set up a wee Windies Run Club Santa Dash last night. It's just a 5K. Gets done any time in December. Most people are doing Markathon anyway. So, you know, if you're doing a 5K, you might as well enter Windies. Cheapest chips, and there's no medals this time because it was a bit short notice, but everybody that runs it and completes it gets one of the Windies buffs. But all the money, every single penny, all the profits go to the charity. So yeah, and I don't know. It was like a couple of weeks ago. I was just sitting thinking, I should have a run club because I've got a lot of followers. And you know, I think after the Chile this year, Octorada, and when I'm out running, you always get, all right, Wendy, how's it going? Or you know, you get the plaudits and that. It's everybody that contributes to the fundraising, you know. But when you're running a race, you know, and people come up and say, oh, thanks for the fundraising and this, that, and the next thing, you know, you do get a good feeling, eh? So I'm like, right, I should have a run club. So we set up the run club. We've got it up and running, and we've got our first virtual event open just now, the Santa Dash 5K, just to get everybody up and running.
So you say you've set it up, but how do people actually find out about it?
All right, okay. Well, I suppose you would probably only find out about it if you were on Strava. I haven't shared it on any of the socials yet, so I need to do that. I was just wanting to try and kind of, again, just, it's the first time I've ever done anything like this, so just kind of keep it low key and just kind of build it up gradually. But yeah, it's on Strava. So if you're on Strava and you're listening, just search for Windies Run Club. It's virtual, just join it. It's a running community, so we're just there to help each other, support. And like you say, I'm going to be doing virtual events to fundraise for charity. Because at the moment, it's me that's doing all the running, which is okay. And we sell some Windy stuff, which generates additional income. But this is just going to be the run club, so no weather stuff. So it'll just be the running. So it'll mostly be virtual events. Maybe missed the boat during lockdown and COVID, because obviously the virtual events were big then. But again, because it's all for charity, it's not crazy prices. You know, it's not like 30, 40, 50 quid to enter a virtual event. You know, we're keeping it down reasonable. You're getting medals, you're getting buffs. And if you're running anyway, you know, you might as well take part in it. So yeah, if you're on Strava, look us up, Windies Run Club. So we're just a kind of friendly running community bunch of people.
And as part of that run club as well, I think it's important to mention that that's been a topic of discussion. You don't even have to run the whole thing. A lot of people feel pressure that, you know, they have to run and go all out to get the buffalo or the medal. And you've said, no, it is just a bit of fun.
Yeah, aye. So when I spoke to Mike about the challenge, I'm going to do another one as well, Challenge 2025, that'll be coming. So there'll be options to sign up for monthly distance, like 50 miles a month, 100 miles a month, 75 or whatever. And it's run, walk, cycle, hike, climb. You know, you can go out with your granny. You know, you can go out with your children. You can go for a donder around the park. There's not going to be the rules and regulations per se. You know, if you sign up to do 50 miles a month or 100 miles a month and you only get to 49 or you only get to 99, you know, you're not going to lose out. Like the Santa Dash, the 5K, run, jog, walk, you know, you can even go out with your mate and do a walk. So yeah, it's not, like you say, it's all for charity. You know, we're not going to be too harsh, you know, and clamp down on you. You know, if you sign up and complete it, whatever way, you know, you'll get your buffalo, you'll get your medal, but most importantly, almost every single penny, all profits go to charity. Yeah.
So with all the events that you've done so far in your 6 years, if you had a dream race that you just had automatic entry into, what would that be?
It'd need to be the Western States, I think. Without a doubt. I was over, again, another funny story. So I was over in America 2017 before I was a runner, at my cousin's wedding, and it was actually up near Auburn in Grass Valley. So we went up there, we stayed for the weekend, had the wedding and that, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously came home. I started running in 2018. It was one of my running buddies from Auchterarder, Drew Summerton. He's big into the ultras in the backyards. I used to talk to him about stuff, mostly me asking him questions about his running and that. So he mentioned Jim Walmsley a few times, Western States, found on 49. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos. And then this year, we were back over in California at my family's. And my wife and my son went down to Los Angeles for a couple of days. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to drive north to Auburn. I'm going to stay Monday, Tuesday, and I'm going to run a section of the Western States. And just kind of Walter Mitty again. This is me. I started at Forest Hill, down to Ruckachucky. I couldn't get across the river. I went and recce'd it the afternoon before, and it looked okay. It was kind of one of these deceiving rivers. So we had all the rocks and the rapids at this side, and we had the cam stuff here. And it looked okay. I could see the bottom, and I thought, that's only maybe just waist deep, chest deep. I could probably get out and get across. But when I went up on the Tuesday morning to run, I'd only went out a few steps, and it was already, up at my waist, up at my belly button. And I'm like, if I get caught here or slip, I'm going to get swept away. And it's no worth risking my life, for some extra kudos on Strava. So I had to run, I think about 3 or 4 miles down parallel to the river before I crossed over. But I managed to catch the Western States Trail, and I got into, towards the end, Highway 49, the bridge up to Roby Point, then down into Auburn, into Placer High School. So it was about 23, 24 miles of that section. But as I was coming down, I was obviously imagining I'd ran from Squaw Valley, and I was already like 80, 90 miles into it, and this is me finishing Western States. But no, if I could go into any race, it would be Western States. But I thought I'd do the ballot every year, just to see if I was ever going to get in. But being over this year was probably, I don't know what you want to call it, but maybe a rude awakening, perhaps, shall we say. It was absolutely roasting. It was fantastic. It was amazing. Seeing the river, the hills, being on the same trails as all these great ultra runners had ran. Oh, fuck me. It was close to 40 degrees. It was roasting. Some of the hills were crazy. And I only ran a short section, and I just couldn't imagine running 100 miles. Just with the heat, just everything, energy sapping. So I came away from that thinking, you know what, Western States, I probably couldn't. Same as over here just now, our West Highland Way. I don't think at this particular moment in time I'm fit enough to run the West Highland Way just now. Having done the fling earlier this year and getting to Tin Drum, 15, 16 hours, 53 miles, I don't think there was another 40 odd miles in me. So, it was a bit like the Western States there. I dreamed about running it, but until you'd actually done a bit of it and thought, here, wait a minute, this is just a wee bit tougher than what we'd thought. So, but no, Western States for me, if I could get into any race. And maybe Big Dog's backyard, but I wouldn't want to embarrass myself.
And would doing Western States with Jim Walmsley, would that be your dream person to run with?
Yeah, I was going to go with 2 people, so I was going to go with Courtney and Jim. So just running Western States or a section of Western States. A social run, obviously, because these guys are running it like 5:30, 6-minute miles. I can't even do that in Auchterarder. So yeah, so Western States, and I think running with Courtney and Jim Walmsley. I think if you think Western States, you think Jim Walmsley, and obviously Courtney for for Western States, but she's done so much more as well. I think she got, when did she get the triple? Was that last year, the year before? Aye, Western States, Hard Rock, and UTMB. So yeah, but I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, on the social medias. You know, there's a lot of great ultra runners out there. A lot of American ones, some of the European ones, Killian as well, Sally McRae. Too many to mention, but I think if I had to pick, I'd probably go with two, Courtney and Jim. Some social miles along the Western States, I think, would be ideal. And then maybe go to a diner, few beers, something to eat. So that would be a perfect day for me. Like,
well, I think Courtney would enjoy the pizza and the beer, definitely.
The pizza and the beer. Hey, they guys can do the big miles, but I tell you, once I've done an ultra, can they eat an 18-inch spicy chicken and beef pizza washed down with about 20 bottles of beer? Probably not. So,
aside from the challenge that you've set up virtually for keeping you busy in 2025, what else have you got on running wise?
Right. Okay. Well, we spoke a little bit about London and Glenmore. So the virtual challenge for Windies Run Club. So that's just going to be Challenge 2025. That's a whole year, and you'll get your medal probably sometime in January 26. So that's going to be it's just to challenge you. You know, we're not going to be too strict. 50, 75, 100 miles a month or whatever. You can put your own distance in, and it's a run, walk, jog, hike, cycle. Even, you know, if you're a mum or a dad, a parent, if you're out with the wee one in the pram, if you're doing some miles around the park, just whatever. You know, it's just to have something to push you as an annual thing. For me, though, I've got London in April, so I'll start to train for that in January. I really want to do it. I really want to run for Cry, but I'm also really hoping I'm successful in this last ballot draw for Boston, because that would be a dream come true. You know, I'm so grateful, appreciative for everything I've managed to do. There's some people been running for years, and I've maybe only managed a few majors. You know, I've done quite a lot in such a short distance. So there's that, and then in April, I'm going to stop there with the big events and then just focus. I'm taking a year off with the Highlander at Blair Atholl. I'm just going to focus on Glenmore. I think that format suits me more just now. The 24 hours, you can come and go as you please. This year we had a one-stop strategy that didn't go horrendously wrong, but I basically just ran until the tank was completely empty. The tyres were bald and there was no more left at all. I broke down 16 hours, I think it was, 55 miles. I tapped out because we said last year I spent too much time in the chair, and I also had a sleep last year. So I never had a sleep this year, and I was only in the chair a couple of times. And the plan this year was, there's no point sitting in the chair for 20 minutes or going for a sleep. If you are tired, just stop and walk. Take in some fuel, drink. At least you're still getting the miles. So that's what we did this year. And we went for the one-stop strategy. But I completely blew up. 55 miles in, 16 hours. Fell asleep for 45 minutes, got up, and then kind of finished it. But this year, or next year, it'll be a two-stop, I think. I'm going to try and catch my body before I break down completely. Maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then maybe 6 or 7. So that's a strategy for Glenmore. And I've also just signed up for Golspie backyard as well. So a couple of friends ran it this year, and obviously I was keeping an eye on Kaylee. You guys had her on in a couple of weeks as well. So I thought, right, we'll try something different. Both the Highlanders have been in July. This year, it wasn't as warm as Glenmore. Glenmore was roasting this year. Sunshine and blue skies. But I thought the Highlander this year was more muggy. more kind of humid. So Golspie, I think, end of October or November. So a wee bit colder, something different. And I don't know if Mike will like this because he might think it'll sound negative. But I think Golspie, I've said to myself, this will be my last backyard unless I get into double figures. So Mike might think, that's kind of, you're thinking you're not going to do it or you're quitting, but that's me kind of putting positive pressure on myself. I should be getting double figures. You know, I can run for 60, 70, 80 miles, but it's the distance and the time. That's the crazy thing for me. So I'm going to do this last backyard at Golspie. I want to get into double figures. I want to get to 12. I really think I'm capable of doing 16, 17. So we'll see how we get on. We're working on the fueling. We're working on this. Later on in the year, not so warm. Hopefully the weather's as good as it was this year, but obviously it's a little bit darker longer. So there's that as well. So the witching hour is probably going to go on a lot longer. But that's the two main things next year for me, London and Glenmore. And I really need to see how we got on at Glenmore. I need to be up in the high 80s, the low 90s, and then I'll know I'm close to the 100 miler. The backyard at Golspie is just an afterthought. My first backyard, I timed out in 8. My backyard this year, I timed out in 5. Like you say, if I don't get any double figures at Golspie, it's just no the format for me. It's the time, it's killing me. And that's just the way it is. Some people can get round in 50 minutes, like Mike, around in 45 and sleep for 15 and then just keep going. Other people can't. Some people are great at 10Ks and half marathons. Some people can start running ultras and just run forever. But there's not a lot of people can do both. You know, when I watch the backyard ultras, you know, I was watching the Belgium team this year at the World Championships. Even all the runners, even Sarah Perry, you guys in the British team, just crazy. Absolutely crazy, bonkers, mind blowing, you know. So that's a special kind of runner that they can do time and distance. So for me, it might just have to be the distance, and we'll try and get the 100 miler in the 24 hours. So that could be the next time I appear.
Yeah, rather than being
maybe 26, 27, 28, maybe before I pick up my bus pass.
Rather than it being negative, I think that's you being realistic, sort of getting a target that is realistic to you that you can achieve. So that'll, because if you can't achieve it, then it is negative because you'll never get to it. So
and there's no point continuing to do it and putting myself through it. You know, I've spoken to Mike a lot about the backyards, the mentality you need. And, you know, a big thing that Mike has hammered home to me is when you come to run a backyard, no kind of distance targets or lap targets. You know, if you get into the mindset where you're like, right, I'm only going to do 10 or I'm only going to do 12 or I'm only going to do this. I can't remember who mentioned it. It might be Kaylee mentioned it as well. I get like that as well when I'm running. If I'm only going out to run for, say, 4 miles or 8 miles, then that's all I'll go and run. And when I get to 3.5, my body starts to close down and I start to think about a cup of tea, a hot shower, a bacon roll.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I have to run 20 miles or 25 miles, I'll go and run that. And when I get to 19 or 24 miles, then I start to wind down. So that's one thing that I've learned from Mike with the backyards is the distance. You know, there's no markers there for you, because if you say to yourself, although I have said, I'm just contradicting myself, but I've said this year, I need to get into double figures. So I need to get to 12. I should be up at 16, 17. I've tried twice. This is my 3rd time, so it's a different approach. But yeah, I'm hoping I can go beyond that, because yeah, your mind and your body if you say a number and you get to that number, you know, your body goes, I've got it. And then it just kind of, it packs up and it's harder to get it going again. So yeah, we'll give it one more crack and we'll see how we go on.
Third time lucky.
Aye, third time lucky, yeah.
Would you be tempted by a track race to get your 100?
Yes and no. I was going to. I kind of. John Cassidy just done the 100-mile thing there as well. It was the one down in England.
Yeah, the
track 100.
25 hours.
Yeah, I think he's died because it's done when they changed the clocks. I think he's done the Berlin one as well. Possibly. But I'd rather do it on a trail. I'm not saying it. One of them's harder or easier because they both bring, I think, a track, an 800-meter track. I think was it like 400 laps or something. You know, I think that could bring its own mental issues. You know, I think I'd prefer to do it on the trails. I think I don't want to diminish anybody that's done one or the other. I haven't been on a track. I've been on the trails. I just think for me, I would have a better sense of achievement if I'd done it over the trails and managed to get it at Glenmore or one of the backyards. A track would be hard as well though, but no, I think I'd prefer to do it on the trails. You're going to get me into trouble, Mike.
The track sounds brutal, Windy. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah,
it looks psychologically, it looks so hard, which is why I can understand it's a Mark Cobain event.
Aye, so I did do the Anglo-Celtic Plate earlier this year in the North Inch in Perth. So that was bad enough. I do a lot of training runs there, but that's 1.5 miles, and it was only 21, 22 loops, so that was okay. But there's no place to hide, and I'm guessing that would be the same as track 100. There's no place to hide. You know yourself, if you're doing a trail ultra, you can hide up in the hills or you can hide in the woods. You know, you can walk the hills, recover, then bomb the downs. That's what you're meant to do anyway. But when you're on a track or when you're in the North Inch, it's just non-stop. You know, there's nowhere to hide, and you're just going round and round and round and round. I don't know if they changed direction, but there's all sorts of hip problems, knee problems, ankle problems, boredom. 1.5 miles is bad enough. I just couldn't begin to imagine 800 meters, like 400 laps.
I think you've been a bit generous there. It's 400-meter track normally.
400 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, is it? Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Probably not. You need to be crazy to get involved in that one, eh?
Right. Last question from me. If somebody's got a race coming up in, say, 2 weeks' time, what would your response be on social media if they said, "What's the weather going to be like in 2 weeks' time?"
I've got my little meme, Windy's crystal ball. There'd be a few swearies. I'd probably tell them not to worry about it. I used to worry a lot about the weather and stuff and just whatever. But both Fiona and Stephen Watt, and John Cassidy, I remember him speaking about when he went to the Manchester Marathon a few years ago. I think his number didn't turn up, or he'd lost his number, you know, and he was up to high dough and stuff like that. Weather and stuff, you know. Now me, because I'm obviously I like to be fidgeting about stuff, but I don't worry about stuff I have no control over.
Yeah.
Now, you know, if it's hot, it's sunny. It's hot and sunny. If it's cold, wet and windy, it's cold, wet and windy. You know, you train in all weathers. You get up. You're looking for nice conditions. You know, you want a nice run. I'd rather run in pleasant conditions than it being roasting hot or freezing cold, blowing a hoolie, you know. But, you know, it is what it is. Don't turn up to your race in 2 weeks and freak out because of the weather. You can't control that. Just focus on the stuff that you can control. You're trained in it. You're okay. You've got your shoes. I'd have my waterproof socks on. A lot of people didn't like me talking about my waterproof socks. You'd have your top, depending if it was hot or cold. You'd have a waterproof jacket. Maybe you wouldn't, because you sweat inside them as well. Depending on what race it was, 10K, half marathon, if it's wet and windy, t-shirt and shorts, and just crack on. You're going to get wet anyway. You're going to stay warm, and that's it really. Don't worry about stuff you have no control over, because that'll just kind of drain you. Just focus on what you can control, and just get to the start line and just believe in your training and what you've been doing, and just crack on and enjoy your race. That's what I would say.
It's fantastic advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. And from me, I just say thank you, Windy, for being entertaining. You were gentle on the swearing.
Aye, no.
And thank you, Nikki, for being Nikki. And
thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.